idioma inglés, ya que su presentación será dada en este idioma. Thank you, Marcy, so much for being here, and the time is yours.
Thank you so much, Yandi. I really appreciate the chance to connect this evening. Hi, everyone. My name is Marcy, and I represent New York University's campus in Abu Dhabi to students like yourselves all throughout Latin America and the Caribbean to introduce students to the unique opportunity to attend NYU, but also to support them through the application process. And so that's what we will be focusing on together today, specifically the Common Application. Of course, I'm happy to answer any of your questions, and I apologize in advance, but I've been a little bit sick this week, so I'm hoping to make it through this without coughing too much. Okay, next. So today we're going to just start off by talking about what is the Common Application, and then what are the requirements from students, what are expected in this application process, where to even begin, and then I'll guide you through a number of different suggestions that I have for various sections in the Common Application, like activities, the essay or personal statement, as well as letters of recommendation that you're receiving from teachers. So to begin, the Common Application is a website. If you're not familiar with it, it's commonapp.org. And the beauty of the Common Application is that you can actually use one university application to apply to over 900 different US universities. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend you apply to that many, but the point is it really makes your life as a student easier, because instead of needing to input the same information into your application again and again, you just create one application that you're able to then send to multiple schools. And it also can help you to stay organized with your application deadlines, because the website will show you the progress of your application as well as when it will be due for each of the universities that you choose to apply to. Of course, not all universities in the United States use the Common Application. We know there are thousands of schools in the US, but a number of them, like NYU, do require the Common App as the only way students can apply. Next. So this is just a screenshot of what you can expect on the Common Application. So you can see that there are a lot of resources. They have resources about financial aid, and you also can do your university research within the Common App website by going through the schools and deciding which ones you are interested in adding to your list of schools that you will apply to. Universities like NYU, like many universities in the United States and also in Mexico, approach admissions decisions with kind of a holistic approach. And by holistic, I mean, we look at the whole application, like a pizza, like every part of it is very important. And you can see the parts of it here. Because we have holistic admissions, we want to know about your family, your education, standardized tests that you have taken, like the SAT, the ACT, or PAA. We want to know what activities you were involved in school, sports, music, or art, maybe community service or a family business. And then finally, there's a writing section, because we do require an essay. Not all universities will require the essay, but these are the things that are required in your Common Application that you can then use as the application for multiple schools, like I said. Next. So what is required from you? Here I've kind of broken down what is required from students, and then what will be expected that your counselor, or if you don't have a counselor, your teachers are submitting on your behalf. So from students, in the Common Application, we'll need your basic information, like your contact details, the high school that you have attended, your grades, activities you have been involved in, any honors or awards that you have won. All of that information, like you saw on the previous slide, goes into your Common App. Some universities do require the Common Application essay, kind of like a personal statement. Not all universities do, but so that is something you will have to add to your Common Application. And then some universities even have a second essay, so you'll have to add that as well. And standardized test scores, at least right now, many universities are test optional. NYU, for example, In the past, we've always required that students apply with their payout scores or with the SAT or the ACT. But right now, because of la pandemia, students can apply without standardized test scores. However, we do require English language proficiency test scores, like you saw in Yandi's presentation, from an exam like Duolingo or TOEFL. That would be expected that you are submitting those scores. And then from your teacher, we would need them to submit your school transcript, telling us all of the courses that you have taken, as well as your grades. They also would need to submit a school profile. And this will tell us just basic information about your school, like how many students there are, what types of classes are available to you, details like that. Then we will need from them a letter of recommendation, telling us about their experiences with you as a student. Are you hardworking? Are you responsible? Are you a good leader? We want them to share all of that information with us through that letter of support. And then finally, I included approval of Common App fee waiver. We know that applying to universities can be very expensive. For example, in order to apply to NYU, you would need to pay the $80 common application fee, and you would have to pay for example, the Duolingo English exam that's around $50 US, among other things. So it can become very expensive. And if that would be a financial burden to you just to apply, please do consider that there are resources available to you. Do your research, contact the universities, contact people like myself in admissions who can support you. Because if you talk to me and you're interested in applying to NYU Abu Dhabi, I can show you how to apply for free, for example. And so one way that you can do so is in the common application, it will ask you if you need a voucher or a fee waiver to cover the cost of that application. If that's the case, then your counselor, your teacher just might need to verify that you need the university to pay for that application fee. And so that's why I included also approval of Common App fee waiver. But all of those components need to be submitted by the deadline. For example, NYU, we have 3 deadlines every year. The common application opens August 1st, and our deadlines are November 1st, January 1st, and January 5th of your final year of school. You would choose one of those 3 deadlines. And so make sure that you start your application early, do your research early, decide where you will be applying, and then make sure that you memorize what is expected of you in that application and when it will be due, so that you are staying organized and meeting those deadlines, and also helping your teachers to meet that deadline as well for all of the things they are responsible to submit. So where do we begin? Just a couple tips for the common application when you're creating an account. And you can do that online today for free. Just go to the website commonapp.org. But when you do create that account, we recommend that you use a professional email address. It can be something as simple as your name and a number. But I ask that it's professional because when you submit your application to a university, they will see your email address at the top of your application. So you want to make sure that you're using something that seems mature. Also include your complete formal name when you're creating your common application account. I know many of you have very long names, I'm sure, and maybe you have a nickname, but it's very important that you're including that complete name. For example, my full name is Martha Joyce Her, but I prefer people call me Marcy. When I created my common application, I had to use Martha Joyce Her so that I made sure all of my documents, all of my test scores also matched my common application. So use your full name. Invite your recommenders early. The timeline is as follows. The common application opens August 1st every year for students to begin submitting applications. And those applications to begin to be due in November, December, January. But you don't want to wait until the deadline to let your teacher know that you need a letter of recommendation and you need your transcript. You should be doing that early. Begin brainstorming. Start thinking about your essay and your personal statement. I'll talk about that in a little bit in further detail, but the essay writing process takes time. That's something no matter what year you are, no matter how old you are in school right now, you can be thinking about your personal statement for university applications and what you might want to write for that essay. And then my final tip in this slide is that optional questions do not need to be answered. What I mean by that is this: there are a lot of questions in the Common Application, like, for example, what country were you born in? Or other things like that, or what is your grade point average at your school? And some of these questions might not make sense for you. Maybe your school measures academics in a different way. You don't use the GPA system like many schools in the United States. And so I included this reminder for that case. If a question is optional on the Common Application, then you can simply leave it blank and skip it. You don't need to worry about it. Next. Next again. The activity section is my favorite section of the Common Application because this is where you can really start to personalize it a little bit more. You can see at the top of this screenshot, there are a number of different categories of what we mean by activities. But really, this is anything that you are putting time into outside of the classroom. Maybe it's a family business, or even taking care of your younger brothers and sisters. Or perhaps you're involved in school activities like music, art, sports, community service, leadership at your school, maybe at a local church. Whatever that looks like for you, we want to know that. We want to know more about you and what you're passionate about. And so you can include 10 different activities in this section. You don't need to include 10, but that is the option that you are given. These are important because through your activities, we can learn a lot about you. We learn what you're interested in, what you're passionate about. Maybe, for example, you work in your family's business. And so when we see that, and when we see the description that you have added about that task, we understand that you are very loyal to your family, you're hardworking, you're dedicated, you're responsible. And so this can really help us to learn more and more about you, and can help you to personalize your application further. If you're a little bit younger in school still, keep this section in mind because we really do want to see students who have been involved. And so whatever your passion might be, we encourage you to pursue that and to get involved in something at school. Okay. So some specific advice for the activities section. As I mentioned, you can list 10 different activities. We recommend that you list the most impressive activity first. So that's what the admissions committee is seeing first. Cluster the activities that are related. What I mean by that is if you are involved in multiple different sports, for example, you're listing those in a row. Avoid using acronyms like this. And when I was in school, I was involved in the Penn Manor Math Club. Penn Manor was the name of my high school. So the acronym for that would be PMMC. If I wrote PMMC in the activities section of my Common Application, I don't think that the admissions committee at all of the universities I applied to would understand what that means. So don't use acronyms. Also, if you're including an activity that is in Spanish, definitely translate that, please, because you can't assume that the reader of your application knows Spanish. You're only given 150 letters to describe the activity, but when you do so, it's important that you are explaining to us how you have contributed to that organization. So for example, if it was a football team, I led my team to the championship game, something like that. Tell us what you achieved in that organization. Everywhere throughout the Common Application, please make sure you're careful with proofreading. Make sure your grammar and your spelling are perfect, not just in the essays, but in every other section also. And finally, we don't want to see students who in their final year of school joined multiple different activities just to make their application look better. We want to see that over time you have been involved in something. That's what's more impressive. Next. So next, let's talk about the essay. The Common Application essay, or the personal statement, is something that is very valuable to admissions committees. It's really a great way for us to get to know more about you. Like I mentioned, not every university will require a personal statement, but if you're applying to a university through the Common Application that does require the Common App essay, you will be given the choice to respond to 7 different questions. You only choose one. For example, questions are things like, what is your background or identity? What is your greatest accomplishment? What is an obstacle that you overcame in your life? Question number 7 is even write anything that you want to. And so you really have a lot of creative opportunity to use your freedom of how you want to introduce yourself in this essay, which makes it even more important to not procrastinate, to definitely start working on this ahead of time. For us, it's really important because it sets your application apart. It shows us what is unique about you. And so make sure that you really are telling us your specific story. And also it can help us to determine student fit. What I mean by that is, for example, at NYU Abu Dhabi, we're looking for students who are very globally minded and who are excited by challenges. So when we read your essay, we're trying to get an understanding of whether or not you would be a good fit for a student body like ours. And finally, with the essay, make sure you very carefully proofread it and make sure your spelling and your grammar are perfect. Because in this writing sample, we also are able to assess whether or not we think that you are well prepared for academics at our university. There are a lot of resources and tips online for how to write a good personal statement. And so definitely start to do your research and think about how you might want to tell your story in your application essay. Next. A little bit more is just some more detailed essay tips are that the essay really should be focused on you and your story. This is not your space to tell us your entire life story. I wish, but you only have 650 words. And so it's very important that you are sharing something specific. For example, today I read a student's application essay and it was all about the chicken soup of her abuelita. And she used this chicken soup to tell a story about her family and what she learned from them and how it shaped her into who she is. It was very unique. And I learned a lot about this student. And definitely, I don't think I will read any other essays about chicken soup. So make sure it's unique and make sure it's teaching us something about you personally. Like I mentioned, there are 7 different questions that you can choose from, and you only can choose one. The essay can't be longer than 650 words. We recommend that if you tell a story from your past, which is a very common way to respond to the common application essay, that you are then somehow connecting that to the present you, how you've changed since then, how you've grown, and then to future you as well. Keep in mind that this common application essay is sent to all universities that you apply to through the common application. And so even though NYU, we would be very flattered if you mentioned us in your essay, I don't think that would be a good idea for the other schools that you are applying to. We say there's a fine line in being too personal. What I mean by that is this. For example, if I want to write about the death of a relative or the divorce of my parents in my common application essay, that's okay. You definitely can write about those experiences. But if you do so, make sure you're focusing not on the sad situation, but rather on the personal growth and how it has shaped you into the mature young adult that you are today. And then again, I can't say this enough, edit, edit, edit. Make sure that your essay really is perfected. Next, I want to talk a little bit just about letters of recommendation. I know sometimes this can be a bit confusing, but for NYU, for example, we require 2 letters of recommendation from your teachers. Like I mentioned earlier, we care about these because they know you well. And so we want them to sort of introduce you to us, to show off about you to us. That being said, you should choose a teacher who knows you well and who has worked with you somewhat recently. You should be choosing someone who could talk to us about your character, your work ethic, your leadership, maybe that you are a hard worker, you are a student leader, you really stand out from your peers, you always get good grades, you always do your best. Whatever that may be, they can talk about a number of different things. But make sure that you are giving them plenty of time to write this recommendation letter. You're not their only student. And so you really want to make sure that you're giving them as much time as possible And I suggest also that when you ask them to write a letter of recommendation for you, you explain to them why you are asking them specifically, and maybe even provide them with some examples of accomplishments from school that make you proud and that are things that they could include in that letter. Next. Oh, okay. That was my last slide. I hope that these tips were helpful for you. Of course, there are plenty of other sections within the Common Application, but those were some of the things that students asked me about most frequently, some of their biggest problems that they have. And so hopefully that was helpful advice for you as you begin to think about where to apply to universities and begin to start the Common Application.
Thank you, Marcy. Muchas gracias a Marcy por su participación. We do have a few questions for you regarding the presentation and also about NYU Abu Dhabi. So if you haven't shared with us your question, you can still do that through the chat, and we will review that right now. So someone is asking, when is the appropriate time to make my Common App account if I want to apply for a winter 2023 term?
So winter 2023. So students right now who are submitting applications are students who are in their final year of school. They are going to, for example, submit their Common Application by November 1st or in January. Then they will find out if they have been admitted, and they will begin university in August of 2022. And remember, the Common Application opens every August. So from the opening date of the Common App until their start date at university, the process is 1 year. You actually can start a Common Application at any time. You could start it now just to become more familiar with it. But if you want to begin in winter of 2023, then you will have to wait until next August to begin that application. The only thing I would say there is, let's say that I still am 2 years away from applying to universities, but I get so excited, I create my Common App account and I enter all of my information. Every August, the Common Application website will reset. And so you might lose some of your answers if the Common App changes a question or two from year to year, but it doesn't hurt if you start your account now, just to become more familiar with it and the resources available to you.
Thank you, Marcy. The next question, it's about NYU Abu Dhabi. Somebody is asking if when they apply, if they get the chance to choose between the New York or the Abu Dhabi campus.
Great question. Actually, New York University has 3 campuses: New York City, Abu Dhabi, and Shanghai. And in the Common Application, it will ask you, okay, thank you for applying to New York University, but which campus are you interested in? New York City, Abu Dhabi, or Shanghai?
Perfect. Thank you. One more question regarding essays. Montserrat is asking, many universities look for essays with a specific theme. What would you advise us here? And also, okay, she has a follow-up question, but I'll let you answer that first.
Okay, sure. So it kind of depends. Like I have said, some universities that require the Common Application don't require the essay at all. Some universities only require the Common Application essay. And then as your question references, some universities also have their own essay requirement. So like NYU, we require the Common App essay and then an NYU essay. And my answer to your question depends on what the essay question is of that university. But I can tell you that if a school says, and this is a common question for that essay, why are you applying to our university? If you are asked to write an essay like that, it's very important that you do your research. For example, you don't just want to say, I am applying to NYU Abu Dhabi because I want to study biology. You can do that at any university in the world. Within an essay like this, you need to be very specific to that school. We're giving you the opportunity to prove to us why you and the university are the perfect match. And so in order to do that, you need to sort of weave together the reasons why you love the university, with some research. So really take that to the next level. You could talk about student life, academics, research that's happening on campus, why you like the city that the university is located in. Anything like that that you find online through your research, you could include in the essay, but you need to really connect it to yourself also. So it sort of is connecting you to specific things from that university that can make a very powerful essay if you're asked to write one like that.
Thank you, Marcy. I do want to add something related to that. I just shared with everyone a link for our blog where you can find many good resources that you can get started on writing your essays. You can find also some recordings in our YouTube channel that you can find in our blog that will let you explain how to get started on writing these essays, not only for the Common App, but also the supplemental essays. And then one more question from Montserrat. She's asking if she can use the Common App to apply for scholarships.
Not that I am aware of. I think it's just for admissions. And as you're applying to universities, you'll need to make sure that you are aware of their requirements for their scholarships. So for example, NYU, we use a website called the CSS profile form that many other universities use, but that is separate from the Common Application. The Common Application is only admissions.
Yeah. Thank you, Marcy. I was gonna just follow up on that again as well. Many universities will require for you to submit an CSS profile. That is something that, again, you can find more information on the collegeboard.org website, or you can also get more information if you get in contact with your Education USA advisor. One more question. Asking for a fee waiver reduces your chances to being admitted to a university?
Oh, such a good question. It depends on the university. But I'm sorry, it doesn't depend on the university. No, it does not influence your chances of being admitted. A lot of universities like NYU have need blind admissions. And so really we don't care about your finances at all. And certainly asking for a fee waiver would not hurt your chances with those schools. That being said, some universities might not have a budget to cover that for you, but it doesn't hurt to ask them if they can pay for the cost of your application. And some universities are free to apply to. So again, why it's important to do your research.
Thank you, Marcy. One more question. This is a really good question that I was actually asked today by another advisee. Patricio is asking, if my deadline application is November 1st, what is the last day I can apply? October 31st or November 1st?
Why ask that question? Do not put yourself in that stressful situation. October 31st. I actually don't know the answer to that question, because if you think about it, we're accepting applications from all over the world, but I imagine the time zone of the university. So we're thinking midnight on October 31st, on November 1st, until it turns to November 2nd, Eastern Standard Time for New York City. But again, don't wait until the last day, please.
Yeah, don't wait till the last day. Make sure to review your that you have completed all the requirements days before, and also make sure that your recommenders have submitted your application, your letters of recommendation way before the deadline. I always advise my advisees to give them a different day of when your letters of recommendations, just because we want to give them enough time to submit that, and we don't want for example, your application to be late if they are missing a letter of recommendation, or if you're missing your test scores or something like that. So yeah, don't wait until last minute to submit your application. Okay. I don't see any other questions in the chat for now, Marcy. Before we finish, I just want to share with everyone our contact information. If you have any other questions, you can make sure to write us at the email that you see on screen. Somebody asked about the recording of this session. It will be available on YouTube. I will make sure to share with everyone the recording of this session. If you also go to our Facebook page, you can also see the recording on the Facebook page. But yeah, you can, for sure, it will be available in our YouTube channel. Before we go, I just want to thank you, Marcy, for being here. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to everyone about the Common App and how they can avoid making mistakes in this important aspect of their application.
Absolutely. Thanks to you, Yandi. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Muchas gracias a todos por estar aquí. Si tienen alguna otra pregunta, pues pueden contactarnos al correo que ven en pantalla y pues estamos en contacto con ustedes. Muchas gracias.